Today on Alley Picked, vintage toys. When I was growing up, we didn't have dollar stores, Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Dollar this and that. We had dime stores or five and dime. That's when there used to be this thing called penny candy. Now it's kind of hard to explain, but if you grew up in the 1970s, the 1960s, or even earlier, toys were different. People were different. Toys back then were interesting, creative, fun, and yet quite simple. Toys were mostly mechanical rather than electronic. And if they were electronic, they were very crude by today's standards. So let's reminisce and have some fun. This game is called Rock'em Sock'em Robots. It's a two-player game where the object is to knock the other person's block off, or their head.
And Blue Farmer's block is knocked off. His block is knocked off?
Sure, but you can press it right back on again.
It's a very well-made game. It had to be, with kids beating on this thing all day. Here's a sales ad in the Sears catalog from 1968. Every kid growing up in the 1960s loved the Sears catalog. I often drew a circle around all the toys that I wanted for Christmas. One of them was probably Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I introduced this game to my grandkids for the very first time. They really seemed to enjoy it. Here, check it out. Go!
It's a battle, dude. I do. It's a battle, dude. I won. Boy, this is the greatest!
You bet! The world's only boxing robots. Get the Rock'em Sock'em Robots by Mart. Twister!
Now here's an original game from 1966. The classic version of Twister. Man, you gotta love the artwork on these vintage game covers. It's not like versions that you're gonna find today. You play this game with 2 to 4 players, and the object of the game is, well, don't let me tell you, just watch this original television commercial.
Twister! Milton Bradley has a new one, it's a Twister. Gets you all twisted and tangled, it's a Twister. Spin the spinner and call the shot. Twister ties you up in a knot. That's Twister. Yeah, Twister.
Right foot blue.
Right foot blue.
Left hand red.
Left hand red.
Left.
Right.
Yellow.
Blue.
Green.
Yeah, Twister. You gotta play Twister in your stocking feet. Standing on this crazy colored sheet. That's Twister. Yeah, Twister. Who makes the best games in the world?
Bill Twister. I'm Twister Private. Oh!
You gotta get it. Yeah, Twister.
From MB.
And now it's time for the next game.
Don't spill the beans, that's the name of the new exciting bean pot game. Fill the pot up bean by bean, it's the funniest game you've ever seen.
Here's an original game called Don't Spill the Beans. This game was originally manufactured by a company called Shaper, which was later acquired by Milton Bradley. This also is still available today, but it looks a lot different. So let's take a look at the original game from 1967. The object of this game is to be the first player to get rid of all of their beans. Before starting the game, divide the beans equally among the players. Position the bean pot so that its top is perfectly level. Each player in turn drops 1 bean on the top of the pot. After a few beans get added, the player must be very careful where he places the beans not to upset the balance and spill the beans.
Big kids, little kids, all the same. When you're out of beans, you've won the game.
As I said earlier, vintage toys were often mechanical, like this Windup Cat. The bottom says made in U.S. Zone Germany. That dates this toy between 1945 and 1949 when the Allies occupied Germany after World War II. Now that's pretty cool mechanical engineering, if you ask me. But not to be outdone, Here's a creepy baby wind-up toy. There were a lot of games that I remember growing up, but I never actually played, like this Slapstick game from 1966. It's got another cool artistic box cover. It's made by Milton Bradley, the same company that brought you Twister. And the characters on the two covers actually look quite similar. Kind of looks like they just changed clothes and hair color. This game is also played on a large plastic mat on the floor, and the object of the game is to get rid of all your cards using these slapstick and placing them over the posts. However, I kind of think the game would have been a lot more fun if you were allowed to use these slapsticks on your opponents. Rockets. As a kid, I loved rockets, like this Estes rocket. But that's not the one that I want to show you today. The rocket that I loved as a kid was much simpler. It was a water and air powered rocket that would launch about 1,000,000 feet into the air. Okay, well, maybe it just seemed that way because I was only 3 feet tall. I wasn't able to locate a vintage functioning rocket like the one I had, but I did find some images on the internet, and mine looked exactly like this. It was made from thick, sturdy plastic, over-engineered like most things back in the day. So I bought this reproduction so I could at least try to relive some of the fun I had as a kid in the early 1970s. And for that, we've got to head over to an open field, away from houses. The rocket gets partially filled with water. It ends up being about 40% water, 60% air. I don't have high hopes for this thing. It's cheap plastic. It doesn't feel anything like the one that I had growing up. It says to pump it 5 times, but when I was a kid, we would pump this thing until you couldn't pump anymore. That's 5. Let's see what it does with 5 pumps. Ready? That is not what it did when I was a kid. Let me pump this thing up till I can't pump anymore and see what happens. I'll tell you, that was horrible. How is a kid supposed to have any fun with this? I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I know it went a lot higher than that. I think they build these things because they're worried about safety. But when we were kids, who cared about safety, right? I had a great childhood, and toys helped me to learn and experience life. And now that I'm older, I still love toys. Only now, most of them look like tools. Thanks for watching Alley Pick. If you do want to see more toy videos, click on the playlist link at the end of this video. Please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and until next time, I'll meet you in the alley.